Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters with me, Chris Mullins, and today I want to talk about the top 10 games that I have on my wish list, although it's technically more of a top 12, but we'll cover that when we get to it. And this wish list is not games that have backed on Kickstarter or something and I'm waiting on fulfillment. It's generally retail games or games that are available to pre-order, although again there's probably one caveat to that. And let's dive in. So the first one is Unfathomable, and this is probably one of the caveats because this is a game coming to retail later in the year, but it is available for pre-order now. It's not a Kickstarter as such, and it's number 10 on my list largely because I know the least about it. I know, as it says there, it's a re-implementation of Battlestar Galactica, which is a hugely loved game, has a very, very passionate fan base, and is out of print, so it's damn near impossible to get hold of unless you're willing to spend a ridiculous amount of money. Whereas this game re-implements that, but with the sort of theme, I believe, from Arkham Horror. So sort of Lovecraftian theme, which I don't really have as part of my collection yet. Obviously, there's not much information on the page here. But it's definitely one that really, really piques my interest and is one I'm keeping an eye on to the point where it does get into my top 10. But that's really all I'm going to say on Unfathomable because, again, it's one that I'm excited for largely based on the promise of the game as opposed to the other games on this list, which are either hugely popular or have IPs that I love. So let's dive into those. And at number 9, we have got Kingdom Death Monster. And again, this is a bit of a caveat because obviously the game has been out for a number of years, but it's been tweaked and re-implemented in the latest version, I believe, is Kingdom Death 1.6, which was a Kickstarter. And I didn't back it through the campaign. I got a pre-order a couple of months ago, end of March I think it was, that was due to release in May. Obviously there's been delays, as I believe Poots is famous for, but as I've spoken about in the past, delays don't really bother me too much, but I think it's slated now around October time. But it is obviously a hugely complex game, and it's a game that people seem to dive into and absolutely fall in love with the phenomenal depth, and it just seems like nothing else in this space really. It seems very, very unique. I mean, the idea of building my own minis terrifies me because I have no artistic ability whatsoever, and starting on a game like Kingdom Death, I'm going to be absolutely fearful of ruining them and making them look horrendous. So it's going to be as stressful setting it up as it is going to be playing it with its extreme difficulty, I think, but I can't wait to experience it. And on to number 8, which again carries caveats because I'm including 3 games in one as number 8, and I've got these slightly out of order. Let's get that one. So Above and Below is a game I've been hugely tempted by since I got into the hobby, really. I think Quackalope had a video on his channel with a couple of other guys. Sorry, I don't know their names. Where one of them was talking about his top 10 family games, and this was one of them. And it basically has a huge narrative element where you're building your village on top of above ground, and then you're going below ground, exploring the caves, and that's where the storybook is. And that really, really appealed to me. Because anything that's a family game appeals to me with Alex, because we really enjoy playing. And so that has been on my wish list for a while. Then obviously I discovered there was a sequel, Near and Far. And again, I don't know as much about the game, but the fact that it's connected to Above and Below makes me want it. And that again, for the third in the series, which has just been announced and is coming for pre-order later in the year, is Now or Never. And I basically know nothing about this game beyond the fact that it is the third part of this trilogy, which they have a special name for. if I can find it, but I probably won't. Arzium, the Arzium storybook series. So again, the fact that it's hugely narrative focused, but throughout the whole 3, by the sound of it, there's a storybook series, makes it a big temptation for me, because anything with a strong narrative is something I want. And the next game is notorious for that, and that is Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, which obviously you'll know if you saw any of my Lord of the Rings card game footage. You know I love the theme, and this is basically, as it says, Journeys in Middle-earth. So epic campaigns working through Middle-earth with all the trappings that come with the beautiful theme. It's an app-driven game. You can tell I'm tired. I need a nap myself, I think. It's the hay fever getting to my eyes, makes me sleepy. But it's an app-driven game, which I have no problem with. The 2 I've got so far are XCOM and Destinies, which I both adore. So it certainly doesn't put me off that this is an app-driven game. And yeah, anything with the Lord of the Rings name on instantly becomes appealing to me. And then we're on to the next in the list, which I believe is number 6. And we got Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, which is much lighter than some of the other games on this list. And again, it's one based on the IP. I am a fan of Harry Potter. I'm not a super fan of Harry Potter, but I thoroughly enjoyed the books, and certainly the later movies. The early ones I didn't enjoy quite as much. But certainly a world that I enjoy being in, and I have friends who do recommend this game. It's one of the very few that has sort of permeated my social group, if you like. So anything with a recommendation is always going to be a big winner, and with a popular IP that I do like attached to it, it's going to be something that appeals to me. Next one is Horrified, and this isn't really an IP that appeals to me. The sort of classic monsters are not generally my sort of thing, but it sounds like a really fun game. And whenever people post on like Facebook groups or social media about favourite games, this seems to be one that always pops up. And it's reasonably priced generally. I think it's in the £40 bracket. And it's co-op, which I obviously love. It's just going to be... Last time I tried... when I almost bought it at the end of last year, but it went out of stock, sadly. So it's definitely one that I'm going to cycle back round to. And yeah, let me know how you feel about any of these in the list, but Horrified in particular, because it's definitely one that appeals to me based on how regularly it comes up in conversations of people's favourite games, as opposed to anything else. Kind of similar with Gloomhaven, because obviously it is on this list and I want to try it and I want to play it because it is ranked number 1. And if you don't want to try the game ranked number 1, then I don't know, it seems a strange thing to be in this hobby and not want to try it, because anything that's that popular has got to be worth a go. Now, obviously, I've got Jaws of the Lion, and Chris and I are going to be hopefully starting that over the next couple of weeks, and we'll feature the first 5 tutorial missions on the channel, just to sort of see how effective they are at teaching a couple of people who are brand new to the game how to play it, basically, and how to get it up to speed. And then hopefully we will fall in... Well, I say hopefully, because if we do, then it's going to cost me more money, so I probably should hope I don't fall in love with it just to save myself some cash. But if we fall in love with the campaign of Jaws of the Lion as much as I think we will, this is going to go up even higher on my spot than it is at the moment. Getting into the top 3 now, and we have a return to the Lord of the Rings IP with... Well, I suppose this is the first edition. I would be buying the second edition, I guess. So I should probably click to that. There we go. And yeah, War of the Ring, one of the most epic games around. Again, hugely complex. 2-player game. One of you is the Fellowship and the Free Peoples, whereas the other one is controlling Sauron's forces. And it's just a massive war across Middle-earth, and that really excites me. I really want to try that and just spend the 2, 3, 4 hours just battling with these iconic locations and characters that many of us know and love. And I so want to get my hands on that game. And similar to number 2, really, because it's basically the same thing, just with a different IP. Star Wars Rebellion, another 2-player epic war game where spanning the whole galaxy this time, as opposed to just Middle-earth, where one of you is the rebels and the other is the Empire, trying to destroy the rebels and take over the whole galaxy. And again, not as complex as War of the Ring, but longer playing time if the facts on here are to be believed. But it's one that I desperately want to try out, and I'm hoping these two in particular will be fairly easy to try, because they are both available through Rent a Meeple, which is a service I covered in my board game rental video a few months back. And should I go ahead and do that later in the year, these will be the first 2 games on my list. And going into number 1, a game that I have almost ordered a number of times, but every time I seem to go to buy it, it's out of print or isn't available, and so I get suckered into something else instead. And it's the Lost Ruins of Arnak, which obviously came out towards the end of last year, has been a hugely popular game with a huge amount of hype ever since. It's still a game that I rarely go a day without seeing somebody post about this game and how much they love it and how beautiful it is, and I just want it. I really want to get my hands on it. I think it's the sort of game that I think Stace would love it. I think Chris would really enjoy it. I think it's the sort of game that it's not overly complex. I think people with a little bit of familiarity with board games will be able to get into it fairly easily. I don't think it's, from what I understand, the hardest to teach necessarily. And it just looks perfect for me and my game group. And I love the theme. I love the quality of the components. It's just a game that needs to be on my table as soon as possible. And that's why it's in my number 1 slot, basically. But that is my list. Again, comment down below if there are any games that I'm missing. Comment down below if there's any games you don't think deserve a spot in this. But that is my top 10/12 games on my wish list that are in retail/pre-order at the moment. But you can't get a top 10 list on YouTube these days without a number of caveats. So forgive me for those. But yeah, comment down below and let me know how you feel about it. But that is the video. So thank you very much for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye now.